Hi, my name is Sage, and this week I was doodling some ideas, and all I knew was I wanted to create something holding a lantern. And I landed on an octopus, because obviously they have lots of arms and can hold stuff. And so my quest begins, and to start I'm going to need a wooden base, some tinfoil, and some clay. And next I'm going to scrunch up some tinfoil into a ball, and then slap some clay on it. So now I have a sphere. And once my sphere be looking spherical like, I then move on to making the arms. And this is where I eyeball the measurements because I don't do math, even though there's a ruler in the background that I never use. And once I cut one to the length that I like, I then continue that process until I finally have 8 of them. So now that 8 arms are cut, I then cover each one of them with some tin foil to ensure that the clay that I put on later will actually stick, because I've noticed that if you just put clay up top of wire, it has a harder time sticking just because it's so smooth. However, do I listen to this advice later on? Absolutely not, so do what you want. And now all of his arms are now covered with some tin foil. I can now start to add the clay to them. And to do that, I mostly just rolled it in my hands to make it a log shape, to make it also semi-smooth, before then stabbing it into the sphere that I made. Next, I do a little bit of blending between the arm and the sphere before then continuing this process until finally he has all 8 arms. I then add some clay around the arms and the sphere just to make sure everything is nice and connected, and I blend everything out while I'm going around doing all this. And then I get completely distracted and decide to work on the lantern. And I start by making a little 3D square that I can then stick some wires into. And I end up adding 1 wire to each of the corners, but then I decided, you know what, I actually hate this little square that I made, so then I made another one. And I do the exact same thing and stick the 4 wires into each of the corners. After that, I make a half a dome shape, and I also use my ball stylus to carve out a little bit of the middle, as this will be the top of the lantern. So now my lantern looks like a lantern now, which makes me super excited. I then decide to make a little hook for it on the top, so I cut some more wire, stab that in the top, and then I loop it onto the octopus's arm. I then get distracted and start working on the octopus again. I notice that there are some few spots that need a little bit more clay, and I also do some blending before then giving him some eyes. Ooh, so now he can see, but now he can really see too because he has a lantern. Ooh, he can see times 2, but also I don't give him any eyeballs. I just give him the sockets because, you know what, I honestly don't know. I just like them. And this is where I get distracted again and decided to give all of his arms texture. Why, you may ask? Why not, is my question. And I do that by running the ball stylus up and down on each of his arms. This is where I decided not to follow my own advice and just put clay up top of this wire. This was a leftover wire and it was just really curvy, so I didn't really know what to do with it, but I thought this would be a great stick for him to have. So now I'm making him a stick. You may also ask, why does an octopus who lives in the ocean need a lantern or a stick? I don't know either, but you know what? I think he would enjoy both of them, you know? For the vibes. And this is me making a third thing for him to have. That's correct, it's a book. Why? Again, for the vibes. Octopuses are smart, everyone knows that. He probably reads, he probably has a laminator down there to make sure that nothing gets waterlogged. I believe in the octopi. And now that my clay book looks like a book, it's obviously time to add a really cool title page. So I'm gonna add a shell, ooh, and I do that by making a little log and then a flattened oval shape, but I make sure the bottom of it's more squared off before then taking my pointy stylus and making the shell indents. So now that everything is made and good, I then pop everything into the oven, and disaster struck. And by disaster, I mean the stick fell out of his little arm. So now it's time for Gorilla Glue. Not sponsored. In hindsight, I should have glued it after I painted it, but you know, I wasn't really thinking. But then I move on to painting the octopus, and I paint him orange. Ooh, why orange? I don't know. I just thought he looked like an orange little guy, you know? Plus, I don't use my orange paint enough, and I was like, you know what? It's an orange day today. And this is him after the first coat of orange, and I do another 3 coats, and bam, this is what he looks like. He's uber orange now. On a complete side note, I was looking at my water for my paint and oh my gosh, I just want to drink it even though I know it's not going to taste good and it's bad, but it looks so good because of the orange. And as you can see, I move on to painting the stick and I use a brown color, and I use the same brown color for the lantern because I thought it would be cool if they matched, and honestly I really like this color. I don't know why, it just screams mud to me, and I'm a big fan of mud and the dirt and outside. So that was that, I guess. And you guessed it, I used the exact same brown for the book because I wanted the book to look all torn and dirty and full of knowledge and fun, you know? So, brown. And this is where I forgot to press record and I added a bunch of crescent moons all over the octopus. Why did I do that? I don't know, I just like moons and I think they're cool. So I added a bunch of them, and this is me adding some more, and I use the color black because black and orange and Halloween are always living rent-free in my mind. Next, I paint his eye sockets black because what other color would I paint them, let's be honest. And they match all of his crescent moons too. And now I can go back to my little objects because they're mostly dry, and I add some black with the brown to make it look more tarnished, and I do that to each and every one of them, and I like that because obviously they're living in the ocean even if it doesn't make any sense. And after I go over everything with the black and brown, I then move on to painting the pages of the book an off yellow color. I mix some yellow and some white to make it look extra tarnished and full of knowledge and fun. I then paint the shell on the front cover the same color because then everything's all mitchy matchy. Next, I take the wooden base and I paint it a blue color, ooh, but then I get distracted and start doing some random touch-ups by adding some more black and brown to the lantern in the book, and then on the stick I add some white into the mixture of the brown and black to give it some more depth, before then deciding, you know what, it's time to add some dollar store sprigs to the wooden base, and I do that by using my hot glue gun and then bam, hot gluing them onto the base. And I continue to do this until all three of them are glued on. And I would just like to say thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it, and now it's time for the glamour shots.